In 2018, I was trying to write a bio for something I'd written, and I was struggling with explaining who I am, who is Jeff Martin. I tried multiple different things, and I came up with this oddly formatted, funny list. And it reads, no one ever accused Jeffrey Alexander Martin of being normal. He has, so far, jumped out of a perfectly good airplane, climbed Mount Rainier, scuba dived with freshwater jellyfish, whitewater rafted, wrestled alligators, run with the bulls, jumped horses, bruised ribs luging, vomited blood in Africa, received a black eye and bloody nose in a tomato fight, biked over the Cascade Mountains, given hundreds of speeches, broken a bolt in half with his bare hands, suffers 4 major spinal deformities, reads compulsively, and still finds time to write on subjects like economics, psychology, literature, religion, philosophy, and fiction. Connect with Jeff at jeffreyalexandermartin.com. And I still struggle a little bit with it today because since 2018, I've done a lot. I currently hold an elected office as a township supervisor. I've done a number of other adventures. I've recovered a tremendous amount from brainstem damage from those previously mentioned. It was spinal deformities along with the complications from that previously mentioned misadventure in Africa. And meditation has been a big part of that. I started meditating in 2015. I trained for a year with an Ishaya monk on a type of mantra meditation where you say words inside your own head, and had some amazing experiences with that, really. I was surprised. I tried meditation as a personal development thing a couple of odd times before that, where you focus on your breathing, that type of thing. I always found it hard to focus, never really got anything out of it. So when I had those strong experiences, I dove into that a decent amount and got personal sessions and group sessions, private group sessions for about a year. But after I got sick in Africa, I came back. I made it back to the United States, which I was vomiting blood and I'd been left for dead in Africa and thought I was going to die. So said goodbyes, one through text, and then had some deathbed realizations about what I hadn't done, which one of them was writing. That's why I ended up writing so much after that. But I made it back to the United States anyways. And when I was trying to recover, I had to go through 3 antibiotic treatments because the first 2 didn't work. And I didn't even realize I had spinal deformities at that time until I just kept not getting better and kept having issues. A friend of mine who's a chiropractor actually took x-rays and gave me a discount on them and found out I had spinal deformities. I remember the moment because it was very odd. He was doing them himself. And he opened up the door and poked his head in. And he said, Jeff, have you ever had neck surgery? And I said, no. And he said, oh, weird. And he closed the door. And I thought, that doesn't seem great. And so I have been on this long journey, even at that point, where I couldn't get away from the pain and some of the things I was suffering, along with the identity crisis. Because before that, I thought of myself as intelligent and adventurous. Now I couldn't do adventures. At certain points, I couldn't even walk all the way across the house. I couldn't walk across the driveway to get the mail without stopping and leaning on the car and breathing for a while. I'd fallen down a few times just because I couldn't hold my balance. I some twitching on the one side of the body. I had some major issues. And then I also was no longer really intelligent. I couldn't hold short-term information very well. My short-term memory wasn't great. And I was having some long-term memory issues that I was noticing as well, along with issues recognizing words. And so I was really downtrending. And that led to this incredible identity crisis. I didn't know who I was anymore if I wasn't intelligent, I wasn't adventurous, I wasn't fit, I couldn't really do anything. And I was also in immense pain and I couldn't focus. I was sensitive to light, I was sensitive to sound, and I was trying to solve these problematic infections and the spinal deformities, these issues, and I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what to do. I really couldn't focus on it because I couldn't get away from the pain. And when I was in football in high school, I had a number of injuries and I had torn some stuff in my shoulder and was given a prescription for Vicodin. And the thing is, I really didn't go to the doctor to get that shoulder issue fixed for a long time. And then it didn't really work out when I eventually went and talked to the surgeon anyways, about a year later or so. And so once you start taking Vicodin for something that's not going to heal, you have to keep taking more because you develop a resistance to it, a tolerance to it. And so at one point, I was 17 at the time. I took because I was 13 when I got the initial injuries. I was 17 and I took a 30-day supply of Vicodin in 3 days, just because I needed it. I needed to be constantly taking Vicodin. And I realized, especially from some of the comments from my classmates at school, that I had acted differently over those days. And I realized that a 30-day supply being consumed in 3 days meant I had an issue. And so I went cold turkey. And I just stopped taking painkillers of all sorts. I didn't take for years any intense painkillers like that, but I didn't even take Advil, Tylenol, ibuprofen. I didn't take any of that until I gotten back from Africa. And so we're talking about a decade later, about 9 years later, something like that. And I didn't want to take painkillers then either. When I went to the hospital, they would offer me painkillers for the issues I was having, and I said no. But eventually, after months of dealing with this immense pain and all these difficulties, I still wasn't figuring things out. And I went to them and I said, I just need the pain turned off for a little bit so that I can just think clearly to try to come up with a solution to my health problems here and figure out what I need. And just turn the pain off. And they said, all right, we'll give you some strong stuff. I don't know exactly what they gave me, but they gave me two injections in my backside. They guaranteed me that it would do away with the pain. And it did not, because I had a bone pressing in my brainstem. And apparently the painkillers don't work the same if you have something directly pressing on your brainstem. So luckily, I went more and more in an alternative route. I eventually had a chiropractor push that bone out of my brainstem. And that's after having gotten rejected for 4 different surgeons at different places, one in Muskegon, one at the Michigan Institute for Neurological Disorders, one at the Michigan Institute for Michigan Head and Spine Institute, and another at Cornell University that specializes in Klippel-Feil syndrome, KFS, which is the type of deformities I have in my neck. I have deformities further down as well, but the ones in the neck are important because those are what impinge on the brainstem and cause loss of different types of organ functioning. And so I ended up making progress on the health stuff, but as I was trying to do that, I also had all this pain to deal with. And so I'd heard that feeling the sensations of the body, this type of meditation can help manage the pain. And I signed up for a 10-day silent retreat where I just went for it, to swing for the fences. Obviously, from those adventures I listed earlier, I like doing kind of crazy things. So I'm like, I think I can do this. I messaged them. I said, I have spinal deformities. I'm not functioning very good. I don't think I can sit in a classic position for that long and meditate 10 hours a day for 10 days and this type of thing. And they said, that's fine. We can arrange like different chair for you, different sitting arrangement, and it'll be fine. And so I went there, and the first few days are wild. I think almost everyone there has a mental break of some sort. And I was trying to get my awareness to go away from the pain at the base of my skull. I mean, it felt like this for years. And I had all these visual issues with seeing stars all the time, almost constantly for 1 year there at one point. So I some damage going on, but it just felt like someone had hit me right in the back of the head with a baseball bat. And I mean, immensely difficult to not focus on that when you feel like it. That's all your attention goes to that, all your energy goes to that. And so a couple of days in, I spent one whole day just struggling to get my attention away from that pain, and I couldn't do it. And so even though you had to be silent all the time, at the end of the day, you could go up in front of this monk and ask a question on a one-on-one basis if you needed to. And I went up to him and I sat down in front of him and I said, I'm not here for spiritual enlightenment. I'm not here for probably what anyone else is really here for. I am here to learn how to manage my physical pain. That's what I need to do. And this doesn't seem to be working for me. And at the beginning, you had to commit to the 10 days. And commitment is just extremely important in all things in life. And so I really didn't want to break that commitment. But I said, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think I can do this. It's too much. It's too intense. And it doesn't seem to be working. I remember he said to me, he's sitting there, old guy, he's sitting there and he says, it'll get worse. and then it'll get better. And he told me that I needed to focus on the pain and try to feel where the pain originated from in its smallest points, which is very counterintuitive. And I said, okay. I was very skeptical of that, but I decided to do it. I committed to the process. And so, hey, what's suffering for 10 days when I'm suffering 365 days a year anyways, right? And so go back and next day do that. And I teared all day. I didn't like cry with sobbing. My tears literally just flowed. I thought I'd be dehydrated from the amount of tears coming out of my eyes, because now I was trying to focus instead of trying to pull my attention away from feeling that section of my body that was in so much pain. I was focused on it, and it was immensely intense, overwhelmingly intense. And so as I'm focusing on that, something just kind of rewired there. Something was different. And I remember getting done that day, having meditated all day, basically in these like 2-hour sessions, and going outside, and it was dark at this point, and looking up and seeing the stars and just experiencing it in a completely different way, in a very intense, unique way. That'd be very hard to describe. You need to experience it to understand what that is. And then after that, the rest of the days went decently well, and I was able to move my awareness out and focus on other parts of my body and feel the sensations. And so that set me on this course of having to meditate, because I'm not very good at having consistent habits. It's not in my base personality. And I've done personality testing, and it comes back that I've naturally low conscientiousness scores, naturally high openness scores. And so I like being creative and exploring and stuff, but establishing a solid habit and sticking to it isn't part of my natural personality. But I was basically hammered into having to meditate because it was the only way I could manage my pain in a way that allowed me to cope with life and continue to function. And so it just set it in there. And then what I realized, and even at the retreat itself, that it didn't just deal with managing the physical pain, which you don't stop experiencing. I think that's important to explicitly state. You keep experiencing the physical pain, you just experience it differently, and you experience it in such a way that allows you to continue to function. I still have a bit of pain in the base of my skull, and it's been that way for years. There's other people with these same type of deformities that have pain like that for decades. And so you have to learn how to manage it, and hopefully in a healthy, functional way. And I seem to be doing well with that and continue to make progress in what I'm able to do. And so this set me on this journey because I also had some flashbacks to old traumatic events, very, very intense stuff involving a best friend dying when I was 13, when I was young, and the school bus pulling up too close to the scene. So saw part of the scene and really just emotionally collapsed at the time. Didn't know how to recover. No one that I knew how to help me recover from that. And so just ended up in a weird state for a number of years. And I had some unresolved things there that I thought I had resolved through other types of counseling, and I apparently hadn't, and the meditation helped with that. And then when I end up in stressful situations like holding public office, I've had attempts at bribery, blackmail. I've had legitimate death threats and was advised that by the sheriff. And I am able to handle that stress, have been able to handle that stress because the meditation helps me with that. And so there ended up being all these other benefits that are just huge in allowing me to cope with life in all of its complexity in a variety of forms. And so it's this key thing that is so important to who I am, who I've become, and who I'm going to become. And so I don't know if that really answers the question of who is Jeff Martin, but I think it is a solid attempt at it. And it ties in with what resetmeditation.com is doing, why I founded it, and what I would like it to help other people with as well.